Signs in the stars. What could you comment on that again, and we'll take from there.
Let me just kind of jump back just over about a year ago, maybe a little bit less than a year ago. I started seeing these YouTube presentations that were talking about this giant asteroid hitting America, and I was like looking at it and saying, is there any substance to it? And it was so over the top, I just totally dismissed it. Well, then 2 or 3 months ago, somebody that I see them as very credible people, sent me more information about a prophecy of a great asteroid event hitting the earth with great loss of life, very frightening. And I thought, I need to go and study this a little more. And as I studied the source of where this prophecy was coming from, it brought a lot to light. But as I was studying scriptures, it was blowing me away. And the first one that was very significant was found in Luke, and I had never really quite seen it in this light. It says, and Luke 21, by the way, is part of Matthew 24. It's just Luke's version of Matthew 24. And of course, Matthew 24 is what Jesus answered his disciples when they said, what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? And basically, Jesus was saying, these things I'm going to tell you about are going to happen before the rapture. Okay? We're going to be here. So here it is. Luke 21, it says, there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. Now, we know the sun is solar eclipse. We know the moon is blood moons. And stars, which is aster or asteroid. Okay? Now, you know what is interesting? I'm not going to mention any names. But 3 weeks ago, there was a big-name Bible teacher on TBN with a couple other big-name Bible teachers. And they're talking about these events, and they're quoting this scripture, and this is how they quote it. There will be signs in the sun and the moon, and they just cut it off. It's like they don't really understand the most significant part of these is the stars. Listen to this. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Now, roaring and tossing of the sea doesn't come from a solar eclipse, and it doesn't come from a lunar eclipse, but you can have tidal waves from asteroids.
That's right. Absolutely.
So listen to the rest of this verse. It says, on the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Men will faint from terror. You know what? I haven't seen anybody fainting from terror from the solar eclipse or the blood moons. But
or from a high wave. I saw the highest waves in the world one time in Hawaii, in the northern part of Hawaii. I mean, I don't know how tall those waves were, 50 feet high, I think. I mean, they were so big. Mm-hmm. The biggest waves, nobody was fainting. They were actually surfing them. Mm-hmm. So what would this be, John? And what would cause men's heart to fail them for fear?
Listen to this. It says, apprehensive of what is coming on the world. If it's coming on the world, then it's coming from outside of the world. And then I think there's one last comment. It's coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Well, you know what? Earth is a heavenly body. And this earth, if it got hit with a big enough asteroid, we would see tidal waves, and we would see a whole lot of shaking going on.
Wow. You have it here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, you know what I should read? I should read the next verse. There are so many verses that I have found that back up what I'm saying here, because that David Wilkerson, a lot of his prophecies, we're going to start talking about this prophet in South America that has prophesied. God has showed him that a great event is coming. But David Wilkerson has said that a lot of things sound similar, but the warning signs that there would be financial collapse, there would be coming destruction, and David Wilkerson refers to destruction of America as Mystery Babylon. Do you believe that New York City is the heart of Mystery Babylon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do.
Well, in Revelation,
But now, does David talk about asteroids?
I'm going to make that connection in a little bit.
I don't want
Yes.
to jump ahead there.
Okay, but anyway, in Revelations 18, verse 21, it says, "Then a mighty angel." By the way, Revelations 18, if you study it, is the destruction of Mystery Babylon. Isn't that right? Revelation 17 and 18. And it says in verse 21 of 18, it says, "Then a mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone and threw it into the sea and said, 'With such violence, the violence of a great stone hitting the sea, the great city of Babylon will be thrown down, never to be found again.'" You know, so when I started seeing these scriptures, let me tell you, I was here 3 weeks ago. I'm glad that we did not cover this 3 weeks ago. Because 3 weeks ago, I was under the mindset, man, this could happen any time, and literally the whole eastern seaboard would be wiped out. So I don't know. I think I answered the first question. What does Luke and Matthew have to say about signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars? It's in the Word.
But here's the thing. This has to happen before Jesus returns.
Yes.
Isn't it positively? Can you read that, or should I read it? I mean, you just read, there'll be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars. We didn't cut the stars out. On earth, nations shall be afraid and confused because of the roar and the fury of the sea. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, when an asteroid, I've studied asteroid. I tried to figure out Revelation sitting in prison.
Yep.
And when I began to study it and see what all these events could be, there had to be asteroids, mountains coming from the sky that would stir up the ocean. Yeah. Now, Ephraim, you haven't explained it to me who this is.
Ephraim is a prophet from South America that at the age of 16, he was given a vision of a great meteor event that would hit off of Puerto Rico that would affect South America and North America. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's frightening, but I've got good news by the time we're done with this, okay? The Lord showed him that 35 million people would die in South America, and 35 million would die in North America and Canada. And this was one of the things that just put it over the top and said this possibly just could not happen. But when I started considering these numbers, one of the things that Ephraim said was that God is doing this as judgment on the church because the church has become so lukewarm that if God doesn't do an earth-shaking event, he will not draw those people back to himself. That many of those people that are lukewarm in the church will end up going to hell because of their lukewarmness. And if God has to shake this planet to wake up the church, then so be it. Well, I'm trying to find peace of mind for my friend in Long Island, New York. And I found some peace of mind in David Wilkerson's book. Because you know what's interesting about the prophecy? Yes.
I don't understand that.
You'll just listen, you'll understand it.
I'm almost out of time for this program.
Ephraim.
Dave Wilkerson, though, he says New York's going to be destroyed. I mean, he's very clear about that.
Absolutely.
Well, he sees New York on fire.
Absolutely. Ephraim saw his vision in 1974, the same year that David Wilkerson came out with the vision, describing the biggest earthquake event in history. Ephraim said this meteor was going to create the biggest earthquake event in history. This prophet Ephraim said that the meteor would cause the whole earth to shake and there would be numerous quakes around the world. And David Wilkerson said that at the time of the biggest earthquake event in history, the whole earth would shake and it would be the biggest earthquake event in history. Ephraim is a holiness preacher. David Wilkerson is a holiness preacher. David Wilkerson came out with this prophecy about the greatest earthquake event in history that would shake the whole world. And he was so highly criticized that to a good degree it ruined a lot of his ministry.
That's right.
It literally kept him in his home church because churches no longer wanted to invite him. Ephraim in 1974, as he was going into the ministry, God was telling him, do you need to preach this coming disaster that I've given to you in vision? And he refused to do it. And it was only 2 or 3 years ago that God affected his health, and God said, I am touching your health until you do what I told you. It's from disobedience that your health is falling apart. And then Ephraim, 2 or 3 years ago, started coming out.
We've been talking a lot about financial collapses recently, and we know this. You see, the American dollar is the linchpin of the International Monetary Fund. If the dollar bill goes, the world finances go. If the dollar bill goes, it does not just affect America. It affects the entire world. So whenever the dollar bill goes, it's not just going to have to be America figuring out, what are we going to do now? It's going to be the whole world coming together to figure out a system on how they're going to take care of this issue. Could this be the one world government? Is that a possible scenario?
And what happened on the day that our government, our president, made a deal with Iran and announced it to the world?
That very same day, there was a rumbling, an earthquake on the New Madrid fault line.
And every time we have divided Israel, which now some say there's been 100 times we've even made a move towards to dividing the land of Israel, and God separated our land somehow with earthquakes and storms. There's been repercussions. What kind of repercussion? This, I believe, if they finish this agreement,
Yes.
I'm telling you.
Because you have to think about it. Obama laid the framework, and there was a rumbling. So what happens if this deal is sealed?
John believes that there's going to be, John Kilpatrick, yes. John believes that the New Madrid fault could go off, which it was the largest earthquake in the history of America on that fault at one time. And the river ran backwards. And literally, if that would happen again, places like Memphis would be gone. But he talks about seeing the Mississippi River dividing America if we divide Israel again.